wasn't on. So I said that Golden State was going to win. Uh, I don't know, Golden State in four. So yeah, there's that. Now the question is, what are we? I was just looking at a video on Teotihuacan and how the pyramids are made up of uh, these electrical properties, and that's built into the stones. But they were imported from Brazil, and they were like, how did they do that? And then it shows that Teotihuacan, these huge pyramids, are all set up looking like a circuit board, and it just made me think circuit boards are set up like a brain, like the human brain. And I start thinking, what if we were the cells? I mean, just think about that. When a sickness comes into, our area, uh, there are, other blood cells that go ahead and white blood cells kill them off. Uh, and, cells are constantly growing and dying. Uh, but what if we were the cells? Now, get me. I mean, what if the human brain, what if the earth itself was just one part of a giant person? And the part that we know of is just the brain part with all its functioning properties. Just the part that we know of. Because there's some places we still can't go. We can't go to Antarctica or past Antarctica. I mean, there's just some things that we can't do, but what if we're really brain cells? Because here's one thing we do know according to the Bible. We know that the earth doesn't move. It's not spinning at 66 million miles an hour. It's not doing it. We know this. Whether it's flat or round, we don't know. People are saying, oh, the earth is round, and they can prove it. Okay, fine. I'm not here to say it's not. But what I do know is that it's not moving. The earth is not moving. Uh, the Bible says that the earth sits still. Uh, but what if it's one big person? What if, okay, so here's another thing. If the earth doesn't move, where does gravity come from? So when you think about gravity, you think gravity comes from, according to scientists, the constant of the earth going round and round and round. And whenever somebody tries to illustrate gravity, what do? You ever get on one of those Ferris wheel type machines that spins around like this, and then you get held back like that, and they're going, well, that's gravity, and it's like, no, that's not gravity. That's centrifugal force. Because you can only be in one place when that happens. That's not what we're doing. We're moving about freely. So what is gravity? And I asked this question before and nobody really got into it. So what is gravity? How does gravity work? And then you got to look at water itself. Water itself is 70%, 77% of this planet. Our body is also 70% H2O and H3O. So we are very much liquid. So you got to look at that. It just starts making me think. We are one. We're one big giant person. We're all one. Now, of course, I don't have too much into this, but it would explain a lot of the pyramids and how they're all set up like huge computers. And it would also explain how the electrical currents can go through these pyramids. And then we talked about Nikola Tesla and all that before. but also, explain how why the pyramids were. Uh, Instead of just looking at them and going, well, the pyramids, they're just dormant, sitting there, and they're supposed to be tombs. When we know that there's no tombs in the pyramids. The pyramids were set up as electrical batteries to power what we don't know. But here's the kick in the pants: we have this huge UFO activity that's happening, and if the Earth is an enclosed system and it is not a planet, if the Earth is a dome like the word said it is, and if there's water above it and that separates the water below, in the firmament, the shield is the firmament. It would explain why NASA has been lying to us and telling us that there's this whole solar system and Hubble spacecraft is way out there doing this, and the sun is way out there, and none of that's true. But it would explain why NASA isn't doing the things that it used to do. Heck, we hardly go out into space now. If we do, we just go right to the edge and then we come back. And the space station, they're getting rid of the space station also. So there's something going on. There's some truths about to be transformed here, people. When those the UFOs are showing up all over the place now. Heck, one of them landed in Africa, and the people came out and actually introduced themselves to a bunch of kids, and all the kids tell the same story. And the thing about the people in the UFO is they spoke to the kids through their brain. The people in the doggone UFOs got out and started using their telepathy to speak with these kids, and all the kids saw it. They all tell the same story. So I think that we are a small part of actually one. And I think that this planet itself, the things that we know on the planet are not even true. We keep thinking that animals go extinct, and then come to find out that these animals are not extinct. We think that we know what's in 90% of the ocean, which we did not explore. There are super predators out there, probably larger than any known predator that we have discovered. The further we go down into the San Andreas Fault, the more that we realize that the mega shark is probably still alive, well, and kicking, and that's not the biggest predator on the planet. Um, we also know that there are astronauts who went into space and they were drowning. We know this, but they didn't want to tell us how they were drowning. Why? Because there's water above your head. But yeah, that's what I think. I think that, and here's the thing, I think that when they, okay, so I think that the alien race that is, these aliens that are popping up, these aliens they're not popping up from outer space, they're popping up from another dimension. That's what they are. They're interdimensional travelers. They're not interstellar. We are not interstellar. We're not going to jump from one planet to the other. We are interdimensional, meaning there are other planets, but you have to go through different dimensions to find them. And actually, I don't think there are other planets. I think it's all the same planet. I think this planet right here has been duplicated an infinite amount of times. I don't think we're going to go and find Mars and Jupiter and all that. I think there are just different Earths uh, right here where we are, but we have to travel to another dimension. And when we do, we find out that there's other creatures living on that Earth. And when we go to another dimension, the same thing, the same thing, the same thing. And these dimensional jumping beings are jumping back and forth from their planet, from their Earth to our Earth. And when they come here, they're looking at what we're doing, and then they're taking that information back to them, back to where they're from. This is why people are starting to see these dimensional jumpers, and there are ones that are for us, and there are ones that are against us. Once again, the Bible says the earth does not move, and it's also said it's the Lord's footstool. A footstool does not move. It stays where it's put. And that's exactly what we are. So all this stuff, when they say, oh, the universe is expanding and all this, that's all to keep you guys confused on what you really are and who you really are and what you're really doing here. They're going to keep filling you with all this stuff that's going on in outer space, but none of it is true. It's all a lie. All the things that NASA have told you, all the sciences that you know, it's all a lie. None of it's true. None of it's true at all. Uh, they're telling you, listen, they told you that there were 9 planets, and then they told you that there were 8 planets. Make up our mind. Is Pluto a planet or not? Then they said, oh, Pluto's just a ball of ice. Like, like all of a sudden they changed their mind. Like, no, you can't do that. Are there 9 planets or are there 8 planets? No, you're making it up as you go. And then you're filling our heads with this lie. And you teach us this in school, just like you teach us to be subservient and not to create. You just teach us to be worker bees, just to keep this world that, instead of us thinking outside of the box and going, okay, why is this? Why is that? Why are the pyramids? Like, we know that they're pyramids, but why are the pyramids? You know, and what would happen if the pyramids got turned back on? Let's think about this. There's a pyramid on every continent, and even underwater. There's actually more pyramids underwater than there is on top of the water. Think about that. I mean, before the Great Deluge, which means the flood, there was a world before this world. There are pyramids everywhere. Everywhere. In India, there's a pyramid. In China, there's a pyramid that's so big, it was owned by an emperor. And they said there's a whole ecosystem up under this pyramid. And they said that there's an emperor buried there, and they said, and they said if the emperor, somebody's kid, they said, I'm walk away from him because his mother's mean. His mom is mean as hell. So I gotta walk away from him. I'm sorry, little boy just looking for somebody to, talk to. I ain't mad at him, but his mom is mean as hell, and I don't want her snapping at me again. But anyway, so they said that if in this pyramid in China, that if the emperor warned them, if you ever open the door to try to come in, that the world will be destroyed. This is what this emperor said. And Americans and Europeans have constantly tried to go over there to China to get into that pyramid, but the Chinese have said, absolutely not. You're not going to come over here and take everything out and not give us back our stuff like you did the Africans. The Egyptians, that's what you did. You went and took everything, put it in the museum. You took their land, you took everything from the African people, everything. And then you claimed it, and now the African people are going, hey, give us our stuff back. And you're like, no. This is what you're doing right now. This is what the Europeans are doing right now. There's these things called the masks that were in Nigeria. And these masks are all made of gold. They went over there. Of course, they robbed them, the Nigerians. They killed millions of them. And now the Nigerians are like, give us back our masks. These masks are in England. And the English are like, no, we're not giving them back. They're like, give us back. They're ours. I'm like, nah, well, we came over there. We kicked your ass some more. And we took them, and they're in a museum. So you can't have them back because now they're ours, being that we took them. This is what they're doing to them. So it's just a quick video on what are we. And the more I look at these pyramids, the more I think that these aliens that are coming back, the good ones are going to tell us to turn these pyramids back on. And they're going to tell us why. If you haven't noticed, the world is really going crazy. Uh, Shoot, the police just shot a 70-year-old woman and killed her. People are robbing people broad daylight. I mean, it's just off the chain. You got traffickers everywhere. Found out that, you know, they killed out one famous billionaire dude, and then to shut him up once he went to jail, you know, come to find out that all of our leaders are in on this trafficking thing, and they knocked him off real quick. They're probably going to knock that woman off too. My battery's going dead. But the reason why this world is going crazy is a reason, and the very reason is because of evil. This world is evil. And the evil that is in this world has come through a dimension. That's what's happening. And if you look at some of the history of some of the earlier people, they were talking about how gods came down and introduced them to certain things. Some of those things were warfare. Some of the other things were agriculture. You know, they taught them a whole bunch of things. So there were two different types of gods that came down, and they either helped the people or they hurt the people. And warfare was very important because the beings that were here were there were snake people that were here that were mating with women, reptilian races, and there are statues of these snake people with their bodies wrapped around a woman. So yeah, there's that. Of course, this is all probably predates the dinosaur age. Remember, they told us a huge meteorite came down and destroyed the first dinosaurs, right? And then another meteor came down and destroyed the second dinosaurs. But before that actually happened, and this was millions and millions of years ago, right? Well, here's the thing about that. They're finding out that, for one, there were civilizations millions of years ago. They're finding this out. There were civilizations a long time ago. And they're going, well, where were these people when the dinosaurs were here? You know what I'm saying? And were they wiped out when, this meteorite, hit, and then they're trying to figure out where the meteorite came from. But here's one thing you've noticed. This is millions and millions of years apart, right? Why hasn't another meteorite that size came and hit us? We can't stop it. Why? Why hasn't another meteorite came down and destroyed this civilization? Because there was no meteorite. It never happened. And what they call millions and millions of years was not millions and millions of years ago. Wasn't. They're just saying millions and millions of years to make you think that something happened millions and millions of years ago, when it was probably just a few thousand. That's just the truth. Listen, the Bible is not even 3,000 years old. You know what was walking around when Noah was walking around? Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs, velociraptors, and other stuff. Hell, dinosaurs is still here today. But nonetheless, dinosaurs, the ones you see in Jurassic Park and all this nonsense that white people think that they can control. You're going to control a velociraptor. A velociraptor's your friend? You know what velociraptor means? It means fast eater. This thing that does... This is an apex predator. That's what it was. And it was a bird. It was an apex predator that topped out at 60 miles an hour. And you think that you're going to control this thing that does... Okay, let me explain something to you. The one of the most voracious eaters on the planet is a shrew. And the reason why the shrew eats so much is because of its metabolism. It has to sustain a high metabolism. Anything that moves quickly has to sustain a high metabolism. There are more than three types of velociraptors. Okay? There were smaller ones and there were larger ones. What on God's green earth makes you think that we wouldn't be food to them? See, there were creatures here during the Bible days, before the Bible days, that we could not compete with. And so these beings that came down and showed us war and all this stuff, they showed us how to compete with these beings, or we wouldn't be here. And that's just a fact. You don't believe it? Look in the book of Deuteronomy. Okay? It talks about some of these creatures. Also, this is why the Great Deluge happened. But once again, I think that I'm saying all this to say, for one, I think the pyramids are going to get turned on. I think they are. When you look at the capstones of the pyramids, some of them were marble, some of them were black granite. It's not hard for us to get a hold of marble and black granite. It's not, some people are trying to say, oh, these stones were, uh, they're made out of meteors. They're not even from this planet. It's not true. And those stones were made out of this planet. And once you start capping off these pyramids again, they're going to turn on. Now, it makes you think, when these pyramids turn back on, what are they going to do? One, I think they are going to be needed to protect us from evil. Two, they're going to show us how to get from one place to another in mass. And I think they're going to be like Stargates. Now, I don't watch Stargate, so I never watched Stargate. I thought it was a corny show. No, I don't watch it. But the premise of Stargate is exactly true. It would take a mass amount of power in order to open up one of these holes or one of these doorways. Not only that, it would take a mass amount of power to keep them open. So it would be something like okay, let's go into fantasy. The Bifrost Bridge, Thor's Bifrost Bridge, the hammer of Thor, not so much, well, the hammer too. Let's look at the hammer of Thor. This hammer was made out of a star, right? It was made out of a star. This is why the hammer's so heavy. So what do they allude to? It's made out of an alloy that's not of this planet. But it's made out of, and it also alludes to somebody made something that can control what? Power. So now we have something that's metal that controls a mass amount of power. Thor was told that the electricity is told by his father, the electricity that is uh, used in the hammer does not come from the hammer. It actually comes from him. It's just a way of channeling it. So we know now, mind you, that's fantasy. But when I look at a lot of these fantasies, the stuff that these people are drawing up, it came from somewhere. It did. Batman was actually in Africa. The whole thing with the bat, there was a Batman in Africa. There actually was. You can look it up. You'll see all of his little stuff. He didn't have gadgets, but he did have a mask on, and he looked like a bat. So you guys can look that up. But when I thought about the Bifrost Bridge, I looked at that and said, that's a very real thing. But it would take a mass amount of power in order to generate a hole or a door that can take us from one to the other. That mass amount of power is, my friends, the pyramids. That's what they are. This is why the pyramids are not tombs. They're power cells. This is also why the pyramids are all set up like a grid. They're set up like a computer grid. And in other words, we are living in a time where civilized where our civilization has regressed. We're not the height of civilization. We're not even close to it. We are so far from what we were that we have forgotten it. And the things that we're creating are just small bits of memory of what we used to have. That's what's happening. So when you look at my phone's overheating, I might have to get on my computer. So if it goes off, I'll come back. Okay, I put it like this: the iPhones that come out. Why is it that there are? Remember, there was just one iPhone